Hello everyone and welcome back to the latest new PPP updates. This is primarily for investors and real estate agents. Yeah, man. It's Patrick Bunce, your mortgage whiz. We're the ones who love helping everyone get to the closing table each and every time. Well, what do we got here? We got breaking news. This is for independent contractors, self-employed, and the sole proprietors with no employees. This is the PPP awards for real estate agents. The entire amount is potentially eligible for forgiveness without any repayment. So, this is for you, the independent contractor. Let's see how it goes. We're in. Those who have no employees who must pay themselves wages based on the Schedule C or are sole proprietors or self-employed that want to determine their PPP loan entitlement amounts. So let's ask a question. Who's eligible for these PPP loans? Well, the eligible entities are, let's start out with the basics. Your business must have been in operation from February 15th, 2020. Small businesses with fewer employees than 500, 300 for fewer for second draw loans. Business categorized under accommodation or food services, i.e. restaurants, hotels, 500 employees or less, that kind of stuff. How does the eligibility continue? Let's see. We're looking at self-employed workers, gig workers, sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed. Did you know that the SBA requires a profit on the 2019 tax return to qualify for sole proprietorships? There's one for you. New one. Now, what else is qualifying? Housing cooperatives, news organizations, public broadcasting entities. What are the ways? There's so many. 501c, which are charitable organizations, nonprofits, tax-exempt nonprofit organizations, tax-exempt veterans organizations, and tribal business concerns. Those are the primary benefactors of this offering. So, time does not permit. We're only addressing the tax filers who have no employees at this point. So, these are the rules for the indie contractors, the ICs I call them. Those are the 1099 fee-paid realtors. And as time does not permit and forces us to go, how does this employee PPP 1% loan work? The no employee, excuse me. The PPP is used for business purposes. What are business purposes? Business purposes are payroll, mortgage interest, rent lease, utilities, and of course numerous deductions. But we're going to attempt all the PPP real estate and investors' main questions and get you to the point where you get all of the various new PPP updates and various changes for using gross revenue. This is really big, folks. Really big. So, let's take a look here. First, I want to offer a disclaimer. And that's to clarify, I'm not giving anyone legal advice, I'm not giving accounting advice, or even SBA advice. If you need references or refinements, go to your tax preparer, CPA, accountant, tax attorney, and get the professional advice you're entitled to in order to pay yourself as an IC sole proprietor or self-employed. And that way you can understand in depth just how this PPP works. And I think you're going to find, surprise, surprise, strong lobbying efforts in Washington have paid off. There's a surprise, huh? The PPP program is extended to expire on May 31st, 2021. That's the deadline. So your clock is ticking. Remember, everything takes much longer than we think it does. Everything. Do not wait or hesitate, and I'm begging you to, as fellow real estate agents, I beg you to take action today. It just takes longer. Everything takes longer. My point is, do not wait, do not hesitate. So, let's talk about the terminology. The important ones are rounds versus draws. The difference is in 2021, congressionally passed programs equal a round. The SBA's notice of your award is a draw. Those are the two most important things you need to know based on this semantic that comes back and forth between the government and the public. So, let's get down to how to pay yourself. Let's get down to it. The new SBA rules have to be observed in order to be approved, and they now give you the most favorable new schedule calculations to determine your loan amounts. So this is really interesting. I'm going to give it to you with the best of my ability. I'm going to further your understanding on how to pay yourself within the PPP and let there be a part of your qualified expenses for the PPP loan to be decided based on how you want to file. Now, the secret sauce is, but first let's talk about something. If you're still using 2020 and have not completed your return, or you're still waiting for your turn, I should say, your return, fill out a draft version of the Schedule C and upload a copy. It has to be a PDF. No one's going to tell you that. It has to be a PDF. Everything that's uploaded has to be a PDF. They don't like scanned documents that are JPEGs or any of this other stuff. So, just sharing with you how to calculate your PPP loan. So here's the newest version for gross revenue application calculations. This is it. That's the really big one. So what we're going to do is, now that we're ready to fill out the draft version, if we haven't got our completed return, and we're going to upload that Schedule C as a PDF copy, we're going to go to line 7 on the Schedule C. And let me just get to the next slide here. And these are calculation refinements. These calculation refinements, if the filer has no employees, the Schedule C filer, who is the IC, i.e. the independent contractor, i.e. realtor. Did you know that 93% of the realtors are independent contractors? The borrower may now elect to calculate its own loan amount based on gross income versus just net income. Huge difference, big for you. Really makes a difference. So either you use a 12-month period of 2020 prior to when the loan was made, or the calendar year of 2019. It's your choice. What you're going to do is simply take the gross revenue amount, divide it by 12, and multiply it times 2.5. And then that amount is your loan amount. That's it. That's it. That's how we arrive at a PPP loan amount. Up to a maximum of $20,833 per individual, which is a total for IC, which have no employees. So that's what you're getting. And now we're on our way to carry on with qualifying for the second draw eligibility. If you're employing for both the PPP 1 and 2, you must demonstrate a minimum of 25% revenue loss between 2019 and 2020. So, if you can do that, then everything's hunky-dory. And I'm referring to people who are applying only for PPP 1 and PPP 2, both. Not everybody who's just filing. I'm talking about the PPP 1 and the PPP 2, trying to get both. Okay? So now we're going to go into the maximum loan amount that depends on whether or not you have employees, and your elections as to whether you use this net profit or gross income. So you can use the best years between 2019 and 2020 of gross revenues. How's that for something? What is this? We've got election coverage periods. This is the 8 weeks versus the 24 that everybody hears about when you apply for PPP forgiveness. Let's start out with the most important thing you're going to need. The most important thing you're going to need to understand is that all sole proprietors and or ICs, independent contractors, the realtors and the investors with no employees, the maximum possible PPP loan is $20,833, and the entire amount is automatically eligible for forgiveness as your owner compensation share. It's just the way it is. That's what they're doing. Like I said, the lobbying efforts have paid off and truly paid off for you. So that was a good investment from the MAR Association and so on and so forth. So the covered period expenses eligible for those forgivenesses are incurred over an 8 to 24 week period, starting from the day you send your PPP loan to your lender. It's not necessarily the date you signed your loan agreement. Could be the first day you upload your application and your docs. So you got to be mindful of whatever the new ruling turns out to be as we progress towards this deadline. The main factors to consider with the election coverage, the elected coverage periods, are whether you're a self-employed individual and if you have employees. Now, let's make a distinction here. Independent contractors are not employees. They get 1099s. 1099s are not employees, they're independent contractors. So it's about whether you've allocated enough eligible expenses under this covered period expense to meet SBA's weekly / monthly provisions. You must use at least 60% of your loan to cover the payroll costs to qualify for forgiveness. The remaining 40% can be used for mortgage interest, utilities, rents, and other expenses. You can keep your business staffed, however, staff cannot include the independent contractors in this method. And another small but notable change is the SBA is now allowing, this is great, any business that filed for bankruptcy is eligible to receive these loans. Home run for somebody. All right. So the question is now, is the covered period just a way of saying how long do you have to spend the money? Well, yes, that's really pretty much it. But there are some rule technicalities that we must meet to receive forgiveness on the PPP loans. So the full coverage period options, and I'm going to start this right out of the gate. I recommend for ICs, independent contractors, sole proprietors, and self-employed, I suggest 11 weeks and hit your 60% right away. Just disperse within 11 weeks to yourself. Everyone else and his brother, God bless them all, 8 weeks minimum. Shortest coverage period is 8 weeks. If you can't wait, your coverage period may not be less than an 8-week period. A 24-week maximum, that's the longest period available. You can't extend beyond the 24 weeks. But you can't wait until the end either. Anywhere in between is what you got to find. You have the option to choose a coverage period for any time frame between the 8 and 24 weeks. 12 weeks, 20 weeks, etc. You know, like I said, I urge you to consider 11 weeks. Hit your 60% then. And you're going to see why in just a second here. For loans receiving the gross income without payroll costs, you can take 2.5 months worth of your 2019 and 2020 gross income as reported on line 7 of your Schedule C. To do so, you must use a period of coverage of at least 11 weeks. There are no special conditions to follow. You simply transfer the appropriate amount of money to your personal bank account. There's no conditional elements. While it's true that the covered period is how long you have to spend the money, if you decide to stop the coverage period, say at 8 weeks as a sole proprietor, you could only take up to 8 weeks compensation up at that point because you're not at 60%. That's what I'm trying to tell you. That's what I'm trying to tell you. You got to watch it, especially as you get to the 8-week period. So make sure you're trying to maximize your pay as a sole proprietor and at least keep your coverage period open for at least 2.5 months. And don't get fancy and start playing with a year and dividing it by 12 and all this stuff. Work with the months and the weeks. stop at the weeks. If you stop at 10 weeks, take 10 weeks compensation and pay yourself at that time. You can determine quickly by multiplying 60% of your total award how much you can take at what time. So what happens, let's say, if you don't use the PPP for payroll? If you don't apply for forgiveness within 10 months after the last day of your covered period, the loan payments are no longer deferred. You may still be eligible for partial forgiveness, where 60% of the forgiven portion is used for payroll. Sure, you have to pay back anything that wasn't forgiven, but you can still utilize those funds to help out your business. Well, what the hell? That's 1%. That's a heck of an interest rate on a business loan. I don't know anyone who's ever gotten a 1% loan. Do you? Do you know one person who's ever gotten a 1% loan? Everybody's crying, oh my God, I have to have forgiveness. Really? Think about it. That's all I'm asking you to do. Just think about it. So, just to be aware of all the right things, I want to tell you about paying yourself so you can totally pay yourself any way you want. You can pay yourself right at the very beginning in a lump sum if you want. Or maybe you pay yourself with weekly checks. This all has to be for people with no employees. You can even do automated clearinghouse, ACH deposits into one account from a business to a personal account. You can transfer from your business account to your personal account. Maybe write monthly checks. Write one large check and send it via PayPal or other digital transactions. Do it any way thou wilt, just to you, however you're comfortable, I should say. Remember, there are two things to comply with. The easy way, if you're an independent that has no employees, you must use 60% of the loan on wages and payroll costs. So if you're the only employee and sole proprietor, you're using the owner's compensation, this is going to be really easy for you to qualify at 60% because you cut your loan payout at 8 weeks, but you're going to have to cover at least 60% minimum. So stick with the 11 weeks. Don't screw around. Just be cautious about the 8-week thing. And remember, the maximum you can get is $20,833. The entire amount. Now, I mean, it'll be more if you had employees. Right? But what I'm saying is, if you have no employees and you're an independent contractor, that's the max. And that automatically is eligible for forgiveness as an owner compensation share. I would say everyone says pay yourself the majority of the money, say up to 60% if you don't have any other non-qualifying or non-payroll costs. There's other people like CPAs who might say wait 2.5 months to pay yourself the remaining 40% of the full PP loan after that. And then that way you'll come out like a rose if the money is used for extraneous expenses. That would be, the mortgage interest and the deductions we've talked about, as well as the expenses. And the deductions I'm referring to are group or independent life policies or health care, things of that nature. They've added this all back into the write-off deductions. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. So the problem with all of this is the reason it seems so complicated is that the owner's compensation is calculated, and honestly, we've heard a lot of information. I'm just trying to clarify here. It's very confusing to a lot of people, and I've tried to give you the straightest shot. Stick with the 11 weeks coverage. Do the straight up no employee independent contractor IC approach, and just merely take line 7, divide it by 12. That's your gross revenue divided by 12. Then you turn around and take that result, which is a monthly amount, and then multiply it times 2.5, and that's your total loan amount. That's it. That's how it works. It's that simple. It seems so complicated, but the government. What can I say? So what I'm trying to clarify, let's sum it up. Pay yourself from your PPP loan and put it into a personal account. Pay it in one lump sum, pay it monthly, do it any way you want. I'm not going to get into it. So, what I'm going to do, though, however, is make sure you document everything for your expenses in those bank statements that you're bouncing around, sending money between business accounts and personal accounts. Show those transfers have been made. You've got to document everything in those bank statements. The really big picture, maintain your coverage period for the amount that you're taking. So if you are taking the full 100% for the loan, you want to keep the coverage period open for at least 2.5 months minimum, 11 weeks. Do not close your period at 8 weeks and then take the full loan amount and take it as owner compensation, because at 8 weeks, you're only allowed 8 weeks compensation at that point. Be careful when you get to the 8 weeks. What not to do? Okay, this is what not to do. We're looking at right at it. Do not apply with various lenders. Do not apply with various lenders. One more time, do not apply with a bunch of different lenders. Do not make various applications for all your businesses using separate EIN numbers. Believe me, you think you got problems? Wait until you start doing this stuff. They're going to pull it for an investigation. And they know, let's put it this way, the system's very smart. The system is very smart. But what the problem is it can't determine intent. So it's calculated in there that they're looking for fraud. So anything you do that violates their sense of what is illegit is going to bite you in the rear end. So do not make various applications for all your businesses using separate EINs. Just use one and go with it. Go with the one that's most profitable. Assuming that you've just an IC, stick with that. Don't screw around. That's all I got to say. So there's what's not to do. All right, so once more, I'm going to clarify something. I'm not giving anyone legal, accounting, or even SBA advice. If you need refinements, go to your tax preparer, CPA, accountant, tax attorney. For that's how you pay yourself as a sole proprietor and how PP works. Now, here's what you'll want to do. Here's what you'll want to do. What you'll want to do is be ready. What's totally ready? What do I have to do? Here's the steps. First, complete your registration and submit it to us. That's going to be www.neededfunding.com. That's where you go. You go to www.neededfunding.com. All right? There's going to be a brief registration with 5 minutes worth of questions. Once you complete that, submit it. And then we send you back a link. It's that simple. Those are the 2 steps. And then you go to the link and then go through a 10-15 minute application. Make sure you have pre-loaded into PDF documents anything you're going to upload. Do not screw around with this. They're not going to take JPEGs or any other formats. So, that being said, we know what you want to do, what not to do. We've pretty much explained everything. And I have to laugh because I'm ready, you're ready, we're all ready to go here. My son, on happy occasions when he was small, did a little happy dance and used to recite, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm totally ready. Well, so are we. We're ready to go. And we just want you to know that I hope this has been helpful to you and that you should forget something. We don't want to forget this. There's no collateral or personal guarantees required. You have a 1% interest rate if you do have to pay the loan. It's not the worst thing in the world. You will lose your forgiveness, however, if you fail to apply for loan forgiveness between 8 and 24 weeks or the 2 to 6 months after receiving notice of funding. So, you need to kind of be on the ball about this. And we talked about the 2 steps. Let's review them real quick. You're going to do a quick and easy website registration for the Team Patrick application link. You go to www.neededfunding.com. You register, fill out the questions, quick, easy, like I said, and then when you complete the form, simply click the Submit green button on the loan registration questionnaire. Please complete the registration and receive your smart application link for through www needed funding as a smart link. We will send it directly to you. All right. Here's what we're saying right now. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for allowing me to share this information with you. Thank you so much for your time and consideration. Thanks. There's nothing that we can't accomplish together. We assist and collaborate because we care. We're more powerful every day because of our active listening, research, and listening. Take massive action with the PPP application. You will not regret it. I hope this has been helpful to you. Patrick Muntz, over and out.